Well, hey there, YouTube. This morning my wife and I made some speaker cables. You grab a side cutter or a snips or scissors and keep that in your car, in your glove box. Then when you're out, if you see a vacuum cleaner in the garbage, you get out and cut the power cable off. Now that power cable, if you open up a speaker cable, which are very expensive cables, you open those up, what you find is two pretty large diameter stranded copper wires. And that's the same thing that you find when you cut a lamp cord or better yet, a vacuum cleaner cable. And they're really long, so I cut that into thirds. I got 3 12-foot spans, some switchgraph connectors, make speaker cables. And so I told this story. I was in one band where we had a big PA that the dude, he owned a home, and he was a real secretive. He was Sicilian, and it was always kind of like scammy and weird stuff going on. I was really good friends with him. We were like partners. I was always over there doing home studio stuff with MIDI in the 90s. So we had this band. We had 2 girl backup singers, 2 guitar players. Me and the other guitar player, this guy, we had Roland guitar synths with MIDI foot switches and MIDI multi-effects. So we could hit a button and it would change all of our patches and our rack mount stuff. So I had a Strat with a MIDI pickup that played bass. I went to a bass amp and then to the PA. And I would EQ the heck out of it, so only low frequencies would go through. And it sounded like a bass, because if you trim off all the highs and the mids, you get rid of that synthy aspect of it. And then I would take my straight guitar signal and run that to a couple small Fender amps with reverb, and with a backwards box, and I could flip it around in slower songs and have that reverse thing going on. And man, when we would play, people would be freaking out because they would, where's that bass coming from? It's 3 guys with Strats on stage. And they would come up squinting, oh, it's got to be that guy. And then they would come up, dude, what are you using? Oh, it's a guitar synth. And then next time we would see those guys, their lead guitar player would have one. So like I was just saying, we sold a lot of guitar synths for Roland in Chicago. So this other guy was just kind of, we were friends, but it was challenging. He's not, I don't think he's really doing music. I know they were recording over there, and like in 6 months they could get done. Like there was a version of Running Down a Dream, Tom Petty song, that took, I think like 6 months. Every line was a different session for the vocals because they drank so much, and the effects would be different because they would forget how they set it up, but they didn't write it down. So I got a hold of that and edited it and did some. We played out live one time and he got a little buzzed and forgot the words, and he kept saying the last few days the rain was unstoppable. So he kept saying that, so I edited a version of that song where that's all he said through the whole thing. I did some other tricks with it too, but we were approached by because we were playing parties and bars. We were playing this pizza pub. We had some great fun gigs. I remember playing the DUPER out here too, which was kind of a big deal, but had one gig at Sir Donald's, but the guitar player flaked out and went to a crack cocaine party. And that was it. I said him or me. So I ended up promising myself, after this experiences with this other band, that I would never play in a band again unless I was playing lead guitar and writing the music. Because it was really difficult being able to pick a song. I'd be like, dudes, I want to play Pink Floyd Fearless. And it was like pulling teeth, and finally we did it, and it turned into this thing where we would play out, and that's, people would be requesting it. That was all they wanted to hear, And then I was like, okay, we're going to do Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, And I did an arrangement for it, and then when we went to do it on stage, the guitar player refused to play the part because it was showing off a patch on his synth that he called inversion that was this unbelievably cool sounding patch, and he didn't like that the bass player had told him what patch to use. So it was fine in rehearsal, and then when we played it on stage, he just sat there and looked at me. Didn't play. So stuff like that, and then the story I'm going to tell you, this guy showed up named, we'll call him George, and his deal was he was going to pay us 50%. We were going to show up, set the PA up, our PA. They were going to get up there and play with our stuff for 20 minutes. Then we were going to play the rest of the night, and then have to load the PA up, take it to the back to the spot and unload it, and we were going to get half of the door along with them. And I was like, wait a minute, no. Everyone else in the band, we had this meeting. He comes in at one of our practices and sits there and listens for an hour, and then we wrap that up, go in the other room, and he lays this out on us, and everyone's like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, no, not 50-50. We're getting 75% of the door. You're getting 25. He's like, how do you figure? I go, how do you figure? It's our PA. He's like, yeah, but I'm throwing the party. I go, what are you doing? Getting one of your lackeys to pick up the keg of beer? We got to set the PA up. We got to tear the PA down. We got to drive it back to the spot at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. Are you kidding me? 75-25 or we're not doing it. And I had no right to speak up. It wasn't my PA. But after the guy left, the other dude, who we'll call King, he was like, so right after that, this dude George, this drummer, calls me up and says, look, we're firing our bass player. He just kind of did whatever he felt like, whether it was in key or not. And I had taken his place in the other band too, this guy Beaver. So the guy that painted the giant skull on the water tower that we climbed, facing the road that the cops drive by, when I begged them, don't graffiti this place too. And then we got caught. The helicopters came when we were up in the water tower. Helicopter with the searchlight shining through the hole while you're inside of a water tower that's dried up. Yeah, fun time. So George calls me up. We're getting rid of Weavin' Beavin'. Will you play bass? So I joined this band, and he did stuff like he would cancel the rehearsal was at his place, his parents' house in the basement. He would cancel the rehearsal. We'd call everybody except for me. So I would show up at his house, and he used to do this to get back at me because of that 75%. So we played some gigs. He took that money, bought a PA, and then he was like, it's my PA. So every time we did a gig, he would take 75%. The other 25% would be divided up in the rest of the band. See how this guy works? Be like, here's your $9. His parents owned a banquet hall. We played a Halloween gig there, a costume party with cash prizes. It was a banquet. You got food. You had to buy a ticket for like $65. And he sold it out. Sold out. And I remember getting $30 for that. So he was just one of these people, like, I've never met anybody that was that hung up on themselves and that selfish and that much of just like, the stuff he would say would be so rude to your face. Just like, and he didn't like me. This guy did not like me. So I remember one time we got there, we're at his place and he's just talking and it was his band. He ran everything. And I put up with it because the band was decent. And the singer was good. So you'd be surprised the lengths I'd go to make good music. You know, they had a sax player, they had a keyboard player. It was a fun band, and they had a real wide variety of music they played. But I hated playing Brown Eyed Girl. Oh, I hated it. Yeah, no. That into Stone Temple Pilots, right? So I remember him saying, I'll be right back. I got to grab a za. I go, what? And I grab a za. What? You're going to grab a za? What? I'm going to go get a pizza real quick. I'm hungry, he says. Nasty to me. So his folks owned a restaurant a half a block away from the house. We're all there. You know, I mean, we could have went for some fries or cheese sticks. I don't know, a pizza? He just went and got himself a pizza. Like, told everybody, I'll be back. Wait here. I'm going to go eat a pizza that I get for free. And I remember him pulling out this glass piece in a bag of G13 weed, like 3 pound sack, giant golden nuggets, and just ripping on this bong. And like, does anybody else want to, you know? No. Just getting high for everybody. And he had a full length mirror. He would stare at himself while he drummed. He would lighten that all up. So yeah, he gets this PA with money we earned. And he gets like not the cheapest PA, but the next one up. And then he goes back a couple of months later and gets this massive 18-inch sub so he could hear his kick drum. So it's do, 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 do. And he wouldn't let me plug my bass into the PA. My bass amp it's a YS, which is Traynor Yorkville sound, and it's a 250 Block B with a really good 15-inch speaker in it. Workhorse amp, but it's a 250 with a 15. It's like it redlines trying to keep up with this unbelievable sub in this PA. Like I couldn't do it. I needed to be on that PA, and I'm not asking to be cranking or blaring or ridiculous. Just how you normally run the sound. But he told the sound man, don't plug. I don't want his bass on my PA. He'll blow the speaker. That's what he said. So I really hated this guy. He hated me from the day one. I mean, he came and asked me, and I was always super polite to him. I was trying to win him over so we could be friends. Everyone treated this guy like you ever seen how people act towards a drug dealer? How everyone kind of worships the ground they walk on, and they don't have to open a door. Everyone's like ready to help them. And I wasn't like that with him, but we ended up, we played this gig at the DUPER, the DuPage Inn. It's way, 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 way on the other side of Chicago suburbs than where this guy's from. This is my hood. So me and my brother worked at these car dealerships that were in that area, so we wrote up these flyers. My brother's an artist. Did these really funny flyers, excellent. Went to all the dealerships and handed them out. Went to all the bars and handed them out. So we packed the DuPage in. We got all you can drink, and I got really lit up. I remember some guy hanging on my mic. It's Julia's birthday. Yeah. Pulling on. I got a mic stand that's like 3 sections at an angle, and I would tighten that down. You know, I'm only 4 feet, but it's Julia's birthday. Pull this thing down, and I'm like, hey, you know. So the third time he did that, I shoved him. And I guess I had a little bit too much in me. I just remember this little guy like flying off the stage. And I remember pogoing with like making faces and pogoing. So it was bad. I had way too much to drink. That sound man guy was there. He was from the other band, the guy we'll call King. So he's a Sicilian. He's involved in like shady stuff. He really doesn't like ever divulging any personal information or questions. He won't, like if you ask him something, he won't answer you. Like basic, simple, like he's really like, why do you want to know? Like really weird about stuff like that. So being in a band and being friends with him is very challenging. Because I'm really like, hey, whatever you want to know, I'll tell you. You know, I'm open. So the band fell apart after the gig at the DUPER. The DUPER burned down that night. There was a fire in the kitchen. DUPER was closed for a year for remodeling. So I had the luxury of being able to tell everybody, we burned down the DUPER. Because it was a place you could go. It was a blow. You could go and get Coke at this bar. They had these fatty burgers, best burgers in town. Man, they were sweet, those DuPage Inn burgers. It's gone now. So the band kind of went defunct. That was it. That DuPage Inn gig was our last gig. So much fun. Like 6 years go by and I get a phone call. It's George. George! Hey, how are ya? This isn't a personal call. Do you remember last time we played? We played at the DuPage Inn. Well, when I packed up my gear and I got back home, one of my speaker cables is missing. Now, when I think about it, it's one of two people who stole my speaker cable. It's either you or the sound man, King. And I just called him, and he swore up and down he didn't steal it. So it's gotta be you. You stole my speaker cable. And it cost $185 from Guitar Center, and I want it back. Or you're gonna have to pay me. Now, I look you right in the eye. I didn't steal the speaker cable. I did not take it. Didn't steal it. I don't have it. I never saw it. I never cared about it. And I never would steal from that guy. So, my money is on the fact that it either got misplaced, it fell or something, you know. It was really drunk out that night. It was a thing where they didn't pay us that much, but they gave us open bar. That was my stipulation, because I think I got us that gig. And it was a huge thing about I don't want, because we had played at a place, and I went up to get a drink, and they charged me, and I was like, you don't understand. When my band plays, I don't buy beer. And they're like, no, that's not the way it is here. And so that was always a thing with me. But anyway, I could not believe that guy did that. Today we made those 3 cables, and I told that story to my wife, and she said, you should see if you can find him on Facebook. Get a hold of him and be like, hey, George, you still need that speaker cable? $25. Because we made 3 out of the cord from the vacuum cleaner. So that's the story about the time I was accused of stealing a speaker cable, a drummer that I worked with who didn't like me for some reason, and it was mutual. I couldn't believe he would smoke that giant bag of weed in front of everybody and not even offer, and then going and grabbing that pizza. There's just a lot of stuff like, here's your $9 for some rager party, 8 kegs, $9? Really? $9. All right, you guys. Now you could maybe understand why I promised myself I would never play in a band again unless I was playing lead guitar and I was able to have creative control over the material. So the only way that that's going to happen is if I'm playing with my family. If I was in a position where I could get a bass player, a keyboard player, and a drummer and a singer and I would be able to write the music along with people, I would love to do it. I would love to do it. I would love to do something again. I would even consider playing bass, but I don't know. That whole thing with the covers is not for me. So, all right, I'm feeling a little peckish. I'm going to go grab a za.